Wait a minute, that's not right. Ain't that a kick in the pants when one ref causes two championship matches to be decided differently at Clash at the Castle? Plus, everyone's favorite uncle returns from QR code obscurity to wreak havoc on Raw. Okay, in the news! And the news indeed, we had yet another premium live event. This time it was Clash at the Castle from Glasgow, Scotland, and we saw 5 championship matches, so let's go one by one. First, we have to start with the main event between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. We had Priest early on getting his ankle caught between the ropes. It looked pretty scary, and he's very fortunate to have survived from getting a devastating injury, but it still hobbled him for most of the rest of the match. Priest was, however, to land both a Razor's Edge and a South of Heaven chokeslam during the match, but McIntyre kicked out. McIntyre also got in some good offense with a Claymore into the barricade outside the ring, and then a second Claymore, both of which Priest was able to kick out of. But we have to go to the conclusion of the match, and there's only one way to tell it with, what were you thinking? On this week's What Were You Thinking, we first have to ask referee Jessica Carr, what were you thinking? First, you missed Jade Cargill tap out, but we're gonna deal with that later. But for now, we need to talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. So on Raw, we saw a cutaway where CM Punk is watching the match backstage, and then he asks Jessica Carr for a referee shirt. Why would she give him a shirt? Punk clearly has a shirt on. It was a nice black shirt. There's no reason to give him another shirt, but sure enough, we see Jessica hand Punk this shirt as he then goes straight towards the ramp to go outside. I don't know what she was thinking there, and that proved to be the difference. And then you know the rest of what happens. Punk comes out, sure enough, with the referee shirt on, and he slides into the ring with Drew McIntyre right there, goes a 1, 2, and then stops and does not count the rest of the way. So Drew does the only reasonable thing he could do is get up, stare Punk down, and then push him into the corner where Punk, of course, as you know, stands there and gives a nice low blow shot with a big old kick right to the groin, and that puts McIntyre right down on his knees where he is in obviously a great deal of pain. Of course, Priest finally recovers after a count of about 15 or 20 he could have gotten, gets up, gets the South of Heaven chokeslam with his injured right leg, and somehow manages to get the cover, but gets the 1, 2, 3 count for the win, and Damian Priest is somehow still your World Heavyweight Champion. So for that, we have to ask Jessica Carr, what were you thinking? And with that chokeslam, Damian Priest retained the title. That was his second defense, and he is now 5-1 in one-on-one action in 2024. Drew McIntyre, this was his second match back from injury within a week, but he falls to 8-3, still very impressive in one-on-one action in 2024. But our match of the week was the opener at Clash at the Castle between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles in an I Quit match for the undisputed WWE Championship, and this match delivered everything you could have wanted from an I Quit match. We saw the action spill into the crowd and then even go backstage with both members of the match slamming each other into the walls and even into the control room. But once we got back outside, we saw chairs, we saw kendo sticks, we saw tables, we saw just about everything, and we even saw handcuffs. As AJ Styles controlled most of the match, he was able to pull out a pair of handcuffs and lock Cody Rhodes in them for several minutes. However, Styles took his eyes off of the prize and jaw-jacked with Cody Rhodes' mom sitting in the front row of the stands. This allowed Rhodes to somehow flip his hands from the back of his body to the front and then get a key to unlock the handcuffs. And from there, he was able to get Styles' hands in the handcuffs and cling them up against the ropes. And when Rhodes grabbed a steel steps and was about ready to start pummeling Styles with them, AJ said, "I quit." So Rhodes retains the championship. For Rhodes, this is his third title defense, and he is 8-1 in one-on-one action in 2024. For Styles, he's now lost 3 in a row, and he's just 1-6. And it is his third loss in title matches in 2024, so perhaps he needs to "I quit" a little bit more. Rhodes, of course, wasn't satisfied with just the win. He landed one more steel step shot on Styles after the match just to rub it in a little bit more, but then the Bloodline came out and attacked Rhodes on the ramp as he was leaving the arena, but fortunately for him, both Orton and Owens were there to save him, and it looks like those three may be battling the Bloodline going forward. Our third match, we had Sami Zayn defend the Intercontinental title against Chad Gable yet again, and for what has seemingly been an unending feud, this one didn't have that much bad blood to it. It was more of a technical and even showpiece between these two combatants, and Gable may have taken his eye off the prize a little bit too much on this, as he seemed to be talking to both Otis and Maxine at ringside a little bit too much during the match. At one point, he even grabbed the title belt and handed it to Maxine to then use against Zayn, but she was unable to do it. Shortly thereafter, Gable then used Otis as a shield as he placed Otis in front of himself as Zayn flipped onto the floor, protecting Gable. With that move, Gable was able to put Zayn in an ankle lock outside the ring, but Sami was then able to get out of it by flinging Gable, and it unfortunately went right into Maxine and re-aggravated her injured ankle. Otis then refused to attack Sami as he was injured at ringside and instead picked up Maxine and they walked off. This distraction cost Gable the match as Zayn then hit a haluva kick to get the win. And this was Gable's fourth successful title defense, and he goes to 9-5 in one-on-one action, while Gable has now lost 3 straight matches and 3 straight title shots, falling to 3-6 in singles action. Fourth, we had the WWE Women's Championship match between Bayley and Piper Niven, and for this, I have to say that Chelsea Green was the one that was in rare form, as she slapped Bayley very early in the match and then grabbed her legs, which caused Bayley to stomp on Chelsea's hand, and Chelsea got upset at this and started yelling at the ref to do something about it and even placed her hands on the ref. This caused Chelsea to get ejected. But she was not done from there. She returned in a luchador mask, but didn't change any other clothing, so it was very obvious that it was her, and Bayley took care of her. Bayley struggled with Piper's power throughout the match and was barely able to hold on and even missed 2 rose plants. However, out of nowhere, she pulled out a crucifix driver that was able to get the win. And this was Bayley's second successful title defense, and she goes to 4-1-1 in one-on-one matches. For Piper, she falls to 0-2 in title shots for the year and 0-4 in all singles matches in 2024. Lastly, we had the Women's Tag Team Championship triple threat match between Bianca and Jade, Fire and Dawn, and Shayna and Zoe. Bianca and Jade overwhelmed the other 4 early on, such that those 4 had to team up and work together. But as usual in the WWE, this partnership did not last for long as Shayna and Zoe started to attack Fire and Dawn. Jade was a little bit off of her game and she slipped trying to jump off of the top ropes, but was able to recover and shortly land a powerbomb. She then, however, tapped out to Shayna, which should have been a title for Shayna and Zoe, but the ref was not in position and did not see the tap out. So the match continued. This allowed Jade and Bianca to gain control yet again, and they pulled off their team finishing maneuver yet again, ending in a suplex to Shayna, And when Jade went to cover Shayna, Isla Dawn came out of nowhere and suplexed Jade instead, getting the cover on Shayna and miraculously winning the tag team titles. Wow! Fire and Dawn somehow out of nowhere, no wins in an entire year, and they are your new tag team champions as they go to 1-2 in all tag matches in 2024. For Bianca and Jade, this is their first loss as a tag team, falling to 5-1. For Shayna and Zoe, they've now lost 3 straight title shots. They are 8-3 on the year, but anytime they get a title shot, they can't get the job done. Then on Raw, we had much more happening outside the ring, but let's start with the 2 Money in the Bank ladder match qualifying matches. First on the men's side, the main event of the night was Jey Uso versus Finn Balor versus Rey Mysterio, and Rey was on fire with 3 619s, including a double 619. But Dom came out to distract him, as well as both Carlito and McDonough, and this was enough to cause a distraction, allowing Balor to hit a coup de grace on Rey. But Jey Uso was also perched on the top rope, and he then immediately hit an Uso splash on Balor to get the pin and the win to qualify for the ladder match. For Jey, this was his first match in almost a month, and he goes to 9-5 in all singles matches in 2024. For Rey and Balor, they both continue to struggle as Rey falls to 1-4, while Balor falls to 1-6. On the women's side, we saw Io Sky take on Kiana James and Zelina Vega, and it was Zelina who was on fire, hitting her own 619 and then a code red on Io, but Liv came out and distracted her, which allowed Io the opportunity to eventually hit an over the moonsault on Kiana to get the win. Io has regained her form, improving to 4-1 since WrestleMania and 6-2 in all singles matches in 2024. For Zelina, she continues to struggle and is 0-5 in all singles matches this year, while Kiana takes her first loss and she's now 1-1. In other damage control news, we saw Kyrie and Dakota take on Carter and Chance, who helped out Lyra last week when Damage Control attacked Lyra after the match. Damage Control attacked Carter and Chance before the bell, and then Kyrie quickly landed an insane elbow on Carter. Fortunately, Chance broke it up, but after Carter was hit with a big boot by Dakota, Lyra came out to check on Carter and then distracted Dakota, which allowed Carter and Chance to land the after party and get the pin. For Carter and Chance, this was their first win since January, and they go to 3-5 in traditional tags, while Kyrie and Dakota fall to 0-2 in both of their tag team attempts, which caused Io backstage to again say that Damage Control needs to change or that she'll take care of it herself. Chad Gable asked for another shot at the IC title, but Pierce declined, so Gable said he would take on anyone, and it proved to be Braun Strowman. And Strowman dominated Gable throughout the match, with Gable not getting any help from the Alpha Academy until Tozawa put himself in the way of Strowman trying to do a freight train onto Gable. Strowman, however, threw Tozawa onto Gable and then quickly landed the Tilt-A-Whirl Power Slam to get the win. For Strowman, he remains hot at 3-0 since returning, while Gable falls to 3-4 in one-on-one matches. Gable again chastised the Alpha Academy after the match, but after he grabbed Maxine's crutch, threw it out of the ring, and told her to get out of the ring, Otis finally stood up to Gable and pushed him into the corner, with the 3 Alpha Academy members quitting on Gable later in the show. We then saw Zayn come out and say that he was now done with Gable, so he offered a spot to new challengers, and both Sheamus and Braun Breaker came out to accept that challenge, but those two started to argue, so Zayn had Pierce have a match between Breaker and Sheamus, and it was a surprisingly slowly paced match, but Sheamus was able to take control, and just when he was about to hit a bro kick, Kaiser came out of nowhere and grabbed his foot, causing the disqualification win. Breaker then speared both Sheamus and Kaiser, and then pushed Zayn. So Zayn said he now wants a match against Breakker. But for the match itself, Sheamus gets the DQ win and improves to 3-2 in one-on-one matches. For Breakker, unfortunately for him, this is his first loss in one-on-one action, falling to 7-1 on the main roster. Lastly, we had another LWO versus Bloodline match with Dragon Lee trying to get his retribution against Carlito from being injured right before WrestleMania. But Liv came out yet again, distracting Dom with his purple cowhide vest on, and Zelina then came out and attacked Liv yet again. Everybody fought outside the ring, with McDonough eventually pulling Lee's legs off of the top rope, which allowed Carlito to hit the backstabber to get the win. For Carlito, he goes to 2-4 in one-on-one matches, while Lee drops to 1-3. Beyond the mat for Raw, let's continue with Liv. She stole Dom's purple cowhide vest, as just noted, and continued all night trying to wear it, eventually forcing Dom to unzip the vest himself. Rollins kicked off the show, returning for the first time since WrestleMania, and Damian Priest came out saying that he respected him and offered him a shot at the title at Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre came out and he was so upset with what happened at Clash at the Castle and upset with WWE in general for allowing it to happen that he took the mic and said that he quit and walked out. So we'll see if they'll be able to persuade Drew to come back. If not, it's been a great run for Drew, but we hope to see him very soon. Speaking of people we haven't seen, closing the show, Uncle Howdy returned after over a year, and he had 4 mysterious people with him, all dressed up as members of the Firefly Funhouse. And they apparently wrecked anyone that they could see backstage. It looked like there were 20 or 30 people lying in their wake, and Uncle Howdy grabbed the lantern, ending the show by saying, "We're here." I do not look forward to seeing what happens on Raw, as it looks like those 5 could be pure chaos. Then finally on SmackDown, it was another week where not a lot happened, but in the main event we had Kevin Owens take on Solo Sikoa, with the other members of the Bloodline barred from ringside after Tonga and Loa took out the Street Profits earlier in the night. KO had most of the offense throughout the match and landed a stunner that looked to be the end for Sikoa, but Heyman put Sikoa's leg on the bottom rope to stop the count. KO immediately turned his attention to Heyman and went after him, planning to put Heyman through a table, but Sikoa came to his rescue, landing a Samoan spike outside the ring and then throwing Owens back into the ring and hitting another one to get the win. Tonga and Loa then immediately came out to attack Owens, but Randy Orton made the save, including hitting an RKO on Loa to clear the ring. For Sikoa, that was his first one-on-one win in 2024, surprisingly just now 1-3-1. For Owens, he falls to 3-2 in one-on-one matches. In the other matches, we saw Naomi take on Chelsea to begin the night. Chelsea's tried for a pin attempt, putting her legs under the ropes, but Bayley knocked her legs off, and Naomi instead rolled her up to get the pin. Naomi goes to 3-3-2 in one-on-one matches, very strange record there, while Chelsea remains winless, going to 0-7 in all singles matches. In other women's action, we saw Nia take on Michin, and Michin had some good offense, landing an eat defeat, but Nia rolled to the outside, where Michin then met with Tiffy, who was ringside. Tiffany then threw a drink onto Michin, just as Michin had done to Nia last week, and Michin was not too pleased, throwing Tiffy over the announce table. But when she got back into the ring, this allowed Nia to immediately run into her and then hit an Annihilator to win. Nia is just biding her time until SummerSlam, but she is now 8-3 in one-on-one matches, winning her last 5 in a row. For Michin, this was her first match since March, but she also remains winless like Chelsea at 0-7 in all singles matches. Lastly, we saw Santos Escobar take on Apollo Crews. Now, Baron Corbin came out to try to even the odds on this one, but it was not enough as Legado del Fantasma just had too many people out there, and Elektra yanked the ropes, knocking Crews off of them and allowing Escobar to pin Crews. This was Escobar's first match since April, but he improves to 5-2, while Crews remains winless on one-on-one matches, falling to 0-3. Beyond the mat for SmackDown, not too much here, but we did have another Grayson Waller effect with DIY as the guests, and Gargano tried to get in Theory's head, but Waller then attacked Gargano, and all four men fought, with Waller eventually moving out of the way of a knee, having it land on Theory instead. Lastly, we saw a pre-taped segment where LA Knight got into Logan Paul's house and was just lying in the pool waiting for him, but once Paul arrived, he immediately kicked him out, but Knight said he would see him next week in Chicago. So with that, let's go to who's next. At Clash of the Castle, we had 5 championship matches, but we don't need to talk about the World Heavyweight Championship because as of Raw, we now have the #1 contenders for both Money in the Bank and for SummerSlam. So we'll skip that, but we will talk about each of the other 4 championships. First on Raw, let's start with the Intercontinental Championship. We did have 2 of our top 3 contenders come out and challenge Sami Zayn last night, but here is our specific order. First, we will go with Braun Breaker as the #1 contender. He is now 7-1 in one-on-one matches since starting on the main roster. His only loss was last night on Raw, but as you know, that was a disqualification where we do not know if he could have held on to come back to win that one, so he still remains in our top spot. Secondly, we will go with Ricochet. He is 4-2 in one-on-one matches, so he deserves the shot. However, we did see Breaker take him through a windshield last week and he left on a stretcher, so who knows if he'll be returning anytime soon or if at all. But for now, we'll leave him in the rankings in case he can make that comeback. Lastly, we will go with Sheamus. He did indeed beat Breaker by DQ on Raw, and he's now 3-2 since returning, so that is good enough for 3rd in our list. We won't put him #1. Don't quite think his win on Raw qualifies him to jump to the top of the list. But who should not be in the running for IC champion? Well, it is Chad Gable. Just like Pierce says, he needs to go to the bottom of the barrel now and work his way back up. He is 0-3 in IC title matches since April, so he deserves to be nowhere close to another shot. Next, let's go to the undisputed WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes did retain against AJ Styles at Clash, so we need a new #1 contender, and we think that should be Randy Orton. He did not have a match since the last PLE, but he remains 7-1 on the year, and he was a finalist for King of the Ring, losing very, let's just say, controversially with only 1 shoulder on the mat. #2, we will go with Andrade. He hasn't had many matches either recently, but he is 4-0 in one-on-one matches, so as an undefeated one-on-one competitor, we're going to put him right up at #2. And thirdly, we will go with Santos Escobar. He is also getting moved up from the US title contention to undisputed WWE contention, as he is now 5-2 in one-on-one matches after beating Crews on Friday night. We have moved LA Knight off of this list, even though he still has a great record. He seems to be set on taking down Logan Paul, so he would be at the top of our US title contenders instead. Who should not be in contention anymore? Well, it is indeed AJ Styles. He is just 2-7-1 in 2024, and he has now had 2 chances to beat Rhodes, but has been unsuccessful in both, so he is out of the running for now. Next, let's go to the WWE Women's Championship, where Bayley defeated Piper Niven. We will obviously put Nia Jax at #1. She already has earned her spot for a title shot at SummerSlam, winning Queen of the Ring, so we don't need to say much more there. #2, we will go with Bianca Belair. She has been focusing mostly on tag matches, but now that she's lost the titles, she can go back into a contender spot here, and we'll put her at number 2 at 5-1 in 2024. Thirdly, let's go with Tiffany Stratton. She has not had too many matches of late either, but she is 5-2-1 in one-on-one matches, so we'll give her the number 3 shot. Who should not be in contention? Well, we don't think she necessarily would be trying for it anyways, but Piper Niven got a shot, so maybe Chelsea would try to wriggle her way in there as well. But with an 0-7 record in all singles matches this year, she deserves to be nowhere close. Lastly, let's talk about the Women's Tag Team Championships that were just won by Fire and Dawn at Clash of the Castle, taking down both Bianca and Jade and Shayna and Zoe in a surprising upset, with them having no wins in 2024 at all. However, with that said, we think these two teams should be the next two up. So first we will have to go with Bianca and Jade. They did not even get pinned to lose their titles, so they obviously deserve a chance to earn them back. They are 5-1-1 in all tag matches since forming. Secondly, we will go with Shayna and Zoe. They have lost all 3 title shots that they've earned in 2024, but when they're not in a title match, they are undefeated. So that makes them 8-3 in all tags this year. That's plenty good enough to still be the number 2 contender. Thirdly, there aren't too many choices here, but despite a 5-2 overall record, Chelsea and Piper have won their last 2 matches. And a 2-match win streak is really good for this division, so we'll go with them with the number 3 spot. Who should not be getting a shot anytime soon? Well, we'll continue to go with Damage Control, and in particular, Dakota and Kyrie. With their loss on Monday night, they are 0-2 in all tags. So there you have it for who's next, and let's finish up with our STFs. And on this week's STFs, we had a bunch of them on SmackDown. Let's start with the Bloodline as usual. Tonga and Loa attacked the Street Profits during an interview backstage, not allowing them to compete that night. So Tonga and Loa will both get a 1-week suspension. However, during the match between Sikoa and Owens, Heyman saved Sikoa by placing his leg on the bottom rope right before the count of 3, possibly change the outcome of the match. Therefore, Heyman will get a fine. Lastly, once the match was over, Tonga and Loa came out and they attacked Owens before Orton came out to make the save. Tonga and Loa will both get a fine for this one. Elsewhere, Corbin helped Cruz before Legado del Fantasma could overwhelm them, but it wasn't enough as Elektra still managed to yank the rope and cost Cruz the match. Therefore, Elektra's going to pick up a fine. Piper Niven also attacked Bayley and Naomi backstage while they were just talking, so Piper's also going to get a fine for that attack. Lastly, Michin landed a suicide dive on Nia as she was still making her way to the ring. Therefore, Michin will have to pick up a fine. During the match itself, Tiffy threw a drink onto Michin, just had Michin had done to Nia the week before. Therefore, Tiffany Stratton, you are also getting a fine. At Clash of the Castle itself, we still had several other STFs as Cody Rhodes kicked things off after AJ Styles said "I quit." Rhodes, still holding the steel steps, decided to use them on Styles one more time. Therefore, he will get a 1-week suspension. Chelsea Green, as we noted, was in rare form, and she's going to pick up 3 STFs. First, she slapped and then yanked the legs of Bayley during the match, so she will get a fine for those actions. Then she put hands on the official, causing the ref to throw her out of the ring. Therefore, she'll get a 1-week suspension for that. Plus, then she later returned to the ring wearing a luchador mask, which fooled obviously no one at all. But since she returned when she wasn't allowed, she's going to get a second 1-week suspension. Lastly, of course, the big one was CM Punk going to the ring as a ref and then giving Drew McIntyre a low blow, which cost him the match, with Damian Priest landing a South of Heaven chokeslam. For both faking being a ref and the low blow, Punk will have to get a 1-month suspension. Lastly on Raw, Zelina Vega attacked Liv Morgan from behind during the Dragon Lee and Carlito match, therefore she's going to get a fine. During the ruckus, JD McDonough yanked Dragon Lee's leg, causing him to lose the match, so McDonough will also get a fine. Lastly, Ludwig Kaiser grabbed Sheamus's leg as he was about to attempt a brogue kick on Braun Breaker, leading to a disqualification. For that and the ensuing fight, Kaiser will pick up a fine. Breaker, after the match, obviously upset because he got a DQ loss, speared both Kaiser and Sheamus and then pushed Sami Zayn. For these 3 actions, he will also get a fine. So there you have it for this week's STFs. Clash at the Castle had some great matches, but also some huge surprises, with Fire and Dawn taking home the Women's Tag Team Championships and CM Punk screwing Drew McIntyre, possibly for the last time, as McIntyre quits the WWE. But returning to the WWE was Uncle Howdy and some Firefly Funhouse minions as they wreak havoc all along everyone backstage at Raw. I'm Dr. O'Kay, reporting on the WWE, where everything is okay.